Alright, so this is a test of the microphone. Currently I have my visor open, which means all of the wind is going straight across the microphone, so maybe we hear me and maybe we don't. In a few minutes I'm gonna just go around this little spot here. This is the worst spot because you can't see shit. And I'm gonna lower my visor now. So now I have my visor low, which means I need to speak even lower because the microphone is practically in my mouth. And we're gonna stay close. I just want to make sure that this bike is working properly before I go a little bit further to get gas. And also I want to get reacclimated to this thing because, quite frankly, this bike is very different from what I've been used to in my years. And honestly, it's a little scary, not gonna lie. So we're gonna just go down here. We're going to go around, and I'm just trying to do as much talking as I can so I can get a really good idea as to how well this microphone works. It should be doing a decent job of canceling out the engine noise and maybe some of the wind noise. I have my visor down, but the idea is that I need to get used to controlling my volume, my speech volume, because usually when the sound gets louder, I speak louder because I'm trying to adjust. And that's not a good thing when you have a microphone that is right in front of your mouth. Now, hopefully, this is going to be better than my previous attempts at recording audio because I actually have this attached directly to my Action 3 and it usually works really well. But this will be the first time I'm doing it with my helmet, inside of my helmet. The last video I recorded, I was on my EUC and I actually had the microphone attached to my shirt. And it did great, but I'm not really going faster than 15 miles an hour, and the EUC is, well, it's an electric motor, so it's very quiet. This is not an electric motor, this is a gasoline engine, which, I mean, compared to my other bikes, it's actually pretty quiet, but it's definitely not as quiet as an electric unicycle. Okay, so right now I'm just trying to get the feel. I can feel air coming into my helmet, even though I put tape over the vents. And if I can feel the air going into the helmet, it's most likely gonna cause noise for the microphone. But again, this is just a test, just to see what we're capable of. Now, I was originally going to go all the way to Sam's Club to get gas, but I don't know. I don't feel like going that far. I am very uneasy right now on this bike. I think I'm uneasy in general because of the last time I rode my EUC and busted my ass. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Now, I've actually been very wary of getting back onto the EUC ever since that happened. Not to the point where I am never going to get on it again. It's just I'm not as excited to get on it. Plus, I have to put air in the tire. And it's not easy to check the pressure because the little port to put air in the tire or to check the air pressure is at the worst possible angle with the rim and with the casing of the EUC. So it's really hard to get like a little gauge on there. I know the tire is very low on air, but I don't want to just start putting air in it and then, end up exploding the tire because I put too much air. The issue is I don't have any kind of regulators on my little air pumps. So I gotta figure that out. It's so much of a pain in the ass, and I'm such a lazy person when it comes to shit like that, that I just keep putting it off. And if I don't have the right air pressure in that tire, I'm not gonna take it out again, because I'm pretty sure that was part of the problem when I hit that pothole, because there was no air. It really just like yanked the wheel out from under me. Now, would I have been able to stay on the wheel and not fall if the air pressure was the way it should have been? I really don't know. That was a bad pothole, and I was not paying attention at all. But I don't want a repeat of stuff like that. And I don't want that to happen while I'm on this motorcycle, because that would be a complete disaster. So I'm gonna try and stay close, try to keep aware of my surroundings, do things that I need to do correctly. Go get the gas nearby. Now, the other reason I'm kind of testing this out, that's a lot of wind noise that I'm hearing right now. The other reason I'm testing this out is because the bike's been acting funny since it's been sitting over winter. I ended up buying a new battery, which I didn't actually put on yet, because this battery was completely dead and it really wasn't holding a charge, but it seems to be holding the charge now, so I'm not in a rush to switch out the battery just yet. I'd rather save that new battery for, kind of like an emergency situation, or, if this battery actually gets fucked up. Alright, so let's get some gas right here. Now, normally I would turn the bike off, but I'm not gonna do that today because I'm not 100% sure it'll turn back on once I turn it off. So we're not gonna play that game today. We're going to leave it running. I'm gonna get my gas and go home. Maybe not a good idea to show you that stuff. Alright, not even 3 gallons. But that does mean that this was closer to empty than it was to halfway, because I think this is just barely a 3 gallon. So now we're going to try our very best to, let's not forget to reset our trip meters. There we go. Alright, let's try not to look like a fool. Okay, so a couple of things here. Shifting's a little funny. The Again, this wind noise is wild right now. If I go on the highway with this thing, I'm gonna need earplugs, or else I'm gonna go deaf. But the shifting's a little funny. I had to play with the idle screw a little bit. Not sure I got it where I want it, but we're going to take this home so that I can turn it off, give it a minute or two, and then see if she turns back on. That's my main concern. My main concern is that I got some issues with it where it might leave me stranded somewhere. Now, it does not have a gas gauge, which I would love it to have a gas gauge, but it doesn't. Which means I have to be very aware of my mileage and my usage so that I am never really stuck without gas. I've had one issue already where this thing kept turning off on me after I did a simple ride, and I thought, great, this bike is a piece of shit. And then I realized maybe I'm low on gas. And it didn't seem that low on gas, but it kept on turning off and having issues. And then I put the reserve down, and all of a sudden she started up, no problem. And we were on our way. So I think this thing has it set up where I think the reserve tank is like a full gallon. So if you don't have the reserve tank already on and you start running low, it'll just turn off on you. And I don't like that. So I think I'm gonna have to start doing what I used to do with my old bike, which is leave the reserve engaged all the time and put some saddlebags back on this thing and keep basically like a gallon of gasoline in my saddlebags, because a gallon of gas will get you really far. So I've had that save my ass a few times when I used to go to Harlem to work. I used to take my bike and I would have a full tank when I leave, get to the city, and usually you're sitting in traffic for almost an hour. So I don't do lane splitting in the city, so I'm actually sitting in traffic, wasting gas. And what I used to do is I used to have that reserve, I guess you could call it, gallon of bottle with gas. And what I would do is I would get out of work, and before I leave, I'd put that gallon of gas in, and then kind of estimate more or less where I need to go to top off. And it usually would get me about halfway with no real issues. And then I would just like stop at the same gas station all the time, fill up real quick, also put gas in the little bottle, and then go home. And then at some point I would top off before I go back to work the next day or the other day, or however my schedule was. I don't have to worry about that anymore because I work from home now. So now this is actually just leisure, which is why I haven't used it in a while. Now, of course, I was actually using a different bike back then, but what I mean is riding is now mainly for leisure, whereas before it was for survival, because I didn't actually have a car, at least not a reliable one. So I actually started using my motorcycle to commute back and forth from work. When I lived in Bklyn, I used to do that all the time because it was, in my opinion, better than actually taking the train. It wasn't quicker because of traffic. Usually I get stuck on the FDR, and again, I don't lane split. I never did, actually. Not even when I had my sport bike. I don't trust people. People are stupid. Sometimes people do things without realizing, and then sometimes people do things on purpose. Like, opening a door, or sticking their hand out the window, or throwing something out the window, or just turning the tire, the wheel on their car, so that it's sticking into between lanes. So I don't do it. Plus, it's illegal, so you can get a heavy ticket for it in New York. I know I think California you can do it. But again, I don't do it because it's not safe. And I'm not saying that I'm a stickler for safety and all that, but it's just asking for trouble. It really is. And I've learned most of my lessons, sadly, the hard way. And I still seem to learn lessons the hard way. As I learned a valuable lesson the last time I took out my EUC. And the lesson was, make sure you are fully geared up. Now right now I got my gloves, my motorcycle gloves, I got my motorcycle boots, I've got thick jeans, I don't have any padded pants unfortunately. And I have my motorcycle jacket and my full face helmet. So I'm as good to go as I can be. Honestly though, I really would like to get riding pants. They're a little expensive and they're not super practical, so that's kind of the issue. In fact, the jacket that I have, which is a motorcycle jacket, it has the pads and everything inside, is actually advertised as a covert, I believe they said. It doesn't look like a motorcycle jacket. It looks like a standard like winter coat. It even has a built-in hoodie. It's a little bit weather resistant. It's not a full waterproof jacket, but if I get caught in a little sprinkle, I won't be too bad. And if I needed to go somewhere on the motorcycle and actually walk around in like a store or something, I wouldn't feel so weird. You know, I could leave the helmet locked on the bike and the jacket that I'm wearing, you wouldn't really think twice about it. Now, if I get riding pants, of course, that's I'm sure they sell some that look like regular pants, but they would probably be twice as much as what my jacket cost. Now, is that a problem, or is that not worth the investment? I'm not gonna say that, but the other issue is how much mileage am I gonna get out of those pants? You know, that's one of the things that discourages me from getting them. Is my waist is likes to fluctuate, as in the size likes to fluctuate. So if I make the mistake of getting them too small, because my fat ass gets even fatter, then I can't use them. And if I get them really big, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose if they're like sloshing around on me. So protective gear needs to be very form-fitting. And I know I said I was gonna go home. Ow! Glad I had my visor down. I don't even know what the hell that was I hit. It might have been a bug. I know I said I was gonna go home, and I am. But this thing about riding, is whether it's a motorcycle or an EUC, you start and you don't want to stop until you bust your ass. Then you want to go home. But when things are going well, it's going smooth, you just want to keep going. And right now, you know, I'm still staying close to home. I'm just riding in circles like a dumbass, but I want to do this so that I can kind of get more confident, not just with my riding ability with this bike, but with how well this motorcycle works. Because my next major video with this motorcycle, assuming I can get the audio to work the way I want it, is to take this to the Catskills. So right now I'm in Orange County, Middletown, and I want to go to Delaware County, like Roscoe or Downsville, And I want to do that before the summer is over, actually, because I want to do a major trip where I ride to get there. Mostly local I want to do, because the highway's not really that fun to me. I'm for riding, and it doesn't really look good on video, you know. But then after I get there, I want to essentially do a day camp, which I've never done really, and make some videos with that. I refrain from using the word content because I am not a content creator. I have nothing against people who actually have that title. In fact, I watch YouTube more than anything else. So those individuals that are labeled as content creators, those are the people I watch. So I'm not going to hold anything against them, but I'm certainly not going to compare myself to that. One of the channels I watch is actually about making YouTube videos, and the first thing they say is, if you want to be an actual content creator or a YouTuber, you can't treat it like a hobby. You have to treat it like a business, like this is your career. And I can't afford to do that. So this is a hobby, an expensive hobby, because I don't make any money off of it, but I do put money into it. I think I have, in just recording equipment alone, probably about $1,000, maybe a little more, into it. And if you think about all the other things that I've purchased, for fun, but also because I thought it would be good to make videos on, I spent quite a bit of money. One of the reasons I bought this bike was because I said, okay, I needed a bike, I want to ride again, but also I can make videos with it. That was the excuse. I can make videos with it. But again, I'm not making any money. I do have memberships, and I'm not about to start putting the memberships really high. But I do have memberships, and something I've learned from YouTube, or the YouTube Partner Program, is they don't pay you until you meet the threshold. The minimum threshold is $100. And I did the math. It'll take a few years just to meet the minimum threshold. But if I can reach the 1,000 subscribers that you need to get monetized, then I can start making some pennies off of every video. And maybe that would motivate me to treat this more than just a hobby. But until then, I have to just treat this like a hobby. I really do. And I just realized I missed my turn, which means now I have to make a U-turn, actually. I can't remember if there's an outlet here. I think there's a parking lot at the end of this road, because I don't want to go on the major road. That's kind of a busy road. People go fast. Let's see. Nope, this is somebody's driveway. Here it is. This is the parking lot that I can make a quick U-turn on. And hey, I think I've done this before. I don't know if I did it with the motorcycle or if I did it with the EUC, but this looks familiar to me. Alright, now I'm not going to pretend that I'm some kind of expert when it comes to motorcycles. In fact, even though I've been doing it since I was 18, I haven't been doing it consistently. So I actually don't have a tremendous amount of experience, but I do have some. And what I've learned is riding slow. That's how you get better at maneuvering and handling the bike. Riding fast is easy. The more speed you have, the more stability you have to be upright. But trying to maintain control of this vehicle, balance, staying upright when you are riding very slow, that's where the skill is made. That's why you see people practicing parking lots, big parking lots that are, like empty and abandoned, or they may put cones in there. I was thinking of doing something like that. I did that with the EUC, but I was thinking of doing something like that for this bike so that I can get used to it, get used to quick stops, slow maneuverability. It's a little hard to find empty parking lots like that, though. I had one that I was going to use, and then somebody bought the business, and now it's no longer empty, so can't really do anything with that. Alright, so we've already put almost 7 miles on this since fill-up. That's not bad. Now the shifting is a little funny, and I don't know if it's me that's doing it or if it's the bike that's having issues. The first thing I did when I bought this motorcycle was I changed the oil, but I also changed the gear oil. Now, hopefully I didn't make a mistake when I did that. I'd like to believe that I did it okay, that I did it all right, but it seems to have some issues with going from neutral down to first, and then going from first past neutral to second. The other gears are not as bad. Maybe that's just how the bike actually is. I've only had 4 motorcycles in my whole life. My first one was a 86 Honda Interceptor. I think I had that for about a year before, just to learn, before I graduated to my 2000, I think it was a 2001. I can't remember if it was 2000, 2001 Yamaha R6, YZF R6. The first bike I totaled, unfortunately. But I didn't really total. I crashed it, and then I kind of just put it away. The R6 got stolen from me after a few years that I had it. And then I bought a Kawasaki Vulcan Classic something. It's kind of like what I'm riding right now, but Japanese, not as big. I mean, physically it was big. It was actually longer than this. Nice fat tires. I say it was. I still have it. I think I blew the engine on it because I didn't maintain it properly. I would like to get it fixed because I did enjoy that bike, believe it or not. So I had that. Then I bought a Chinese dual sport bike, which you want to rip on the Chinese for making shit products, but I beat the fuck out of that thing. And it got me to work. It got me on the highway when you really shouldn't be on the highway with that thing. I did push it too far, going 70 miles an hour when it's not made for that, for a consistent amount of time, eventually is going to cause damage. So I think I blew a gasket in that. I'd like to get that fixed though. And then finally I have this bike, which, God willing, I take care of and get to use it for a long time. I almost bought another bike, twice actually. There was 2 separate auctions recently. One was a BMW adventure bike, which was actually being used as a police motorcycle, and it was being auctioned off by, I think it was Goshen PD. And then the other one was a Kawasaki, also an adventure bike. I forget who was auctioning that one off. They both went for $3,900, which is not a bad deal, but unfortunately it was not worth the investment for me. I don't have that kind of throwaway cash, and quite frankly, I wasn't sure I could even ride those things. They're very tall, and I'm very short. And I know with practice, I'm gonna go through here. Screw it. I'm gonna get off this road. I know with practice, I should be able to do it with no problem. But I don't practice much, so it probably wouldn't have been the best thing for me. Now, I don't know if they are actually taller than what my R6 was. If they were actually the same height, then yeah, then I would have been able to do it, no problem. But if they were taller, then yeah, that would have been an issue. And I don't know, I didn't feel like it was right to try and get it. So I kind of let them go. It would have been cool though for the Kawasaki adventure bike. Would have been nice. I mean, both of them would have been fine. I think they were both fuel injected. I've never had a fuel injected bike. They both have anti-lock brakes. Never had a motorcycle with anti-lock brakes. Every single bike I've had, including this one, is carburetor and just, regular brakes. No fancy electronics on it. No additional stuff. The adventure bike, I was looking into it, has all kinds of fancy stuff that probably would make the ride a little more comfortable for me. But again, I just didn't want to take the chance of buying something that I would end up having to turn around and sell for a lot of money, or try to get my money back, and I wouldn't be able to. You might be wondering about that. I don't know. I think I mentioned in another video, but clearly someone has bought the abandoned hospital, mental hospital, closed it up so that you can't get in there. And I'm pretty sure it's the same people that renovated these buildings back here. So unless they reopen that road, that entrance, after they renovate the building, I won't be riding around in there anymore. Now, I can ride around here. They can't stop me from doing that. This is still a public road. But I don't know. I have a feeling that if they have their way and they buy up all of this property, they will in fact privatize it completely. I mentioned in another video, which I'm not even sure I posted, but they actually put signs back where they have all their buildings together for people to stay off of the sidewalk, which is kind of wild, because if this is a public road, then that would be a public sidewalk. So shouldn't we be allowed to continue to walk through there? Now I understand walking down closer to the building is a different story. That's private property. But just put a fence if you're really that concerned with it. Don't even have to put a big chain link fence. You just put a little picket fence. People would respect that. Now I also have to get into the habit of braking with mostly just my front brake. Now, when you take the motorcycle license class, the safety class, they kind of emphasize on using both brakes, and you should always use both brakes. However, it's not like this hard, fast rule that you absolutely have to use both brakes with the same amount of pressure. You have different types of bikes. So, generally speaking, the rear brake is more for control. You would use it to kind of control the bike. But if you really want to stop the bike, front brake. And I almost wiped out on this bike twice now, because that back brake is a bit more touchy than what I'm used to. Now, it's been a long time since I was on a sport bike, so I don't remember how those ride. You know, I know my sport bike, I think it had dual front rotors, you know, brakes, whatever the fuck they call that shit, and one in the rear. But the bike I got after that, the Kawasaki, it had, I think it only has one disc brake in the front. And as you can see, I was pointing that out before, the little chain that they put there, and they're basically telling you, like, stay away. Anyway, it has a drum brake. Drum brakes are garbage. They do not stop fast. The drum brakes are for slowing down, not for stopping. So the fact that it was in fact a drum brake meant that I could put a lot of pressure on it, and it would still just kind of slow down. It wouldn't ever lock up the tire. This motorcycle does not have a rear drum brake. It has a rotor. So I say rotor. Sometimes I remember the word, sometimes I forget the word, but it's a disc brake. So when you hit that back brake, if you hit it with more pressure than you mean to, that tire locks up. And when that tire locks up, you lose control of the bike. Now you're just sliding wherever the universe tells you to slide. Which means if you're not quick enough to release that brake to regain control, you are going to fall and you are going to get really fucked up. You're gonna have a bad day. So I gotta get used to mainly just using the front brake and having my foot on the rear brake in case I need additional control. But that's about it. You know, once you start applying that front brake, all the weight goes to the front, and that's where all of your stopping power is. Oh, look, mopeds, I think, or electric bikes. Alright, so far we've gone 11 miles, so do I dare go further? I've stayed within maybe 2 miles of my house, because I don't know if this thing is gonna turn off on me. So, or if it does turn off, I'm glad to be able to turn it back on. I don't think I've gone past 35, 40 miles an hour, because I'm just staying local. So I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on the bike. Let's see. I'll do another loop. I don't want to push my luck. The last time I pushed my luck, I busted my ass on the EUC. Now, that part of the video, I didn't bother to post because it was unusable. I was really just testing the mic, and I had this camera, which is awful at night, especially when there's no street lights whatsoever. See, I'm gonna stop here and wait for these two cars to come in, because what I've learned is they don't know how to turn. There we go. And they tend to cross into my lane. So in that little intersection, when people are actually making that turn, they make it very short, and they actually cross into my lane instead of going the way they're supposed to, which is always staying in their lane. And if I move forward, I can actually get hit. I do that when I'm driving my car as well. I don't trust that intersection, because I don't trust the people that are driving through that intersection. But alright, I was saying about that other video, I think I recorded almost a half an hour before I busted my ass when I was riding, and it was supposed to be a short ride just to check the microphone. But like what I'm doing right now, I don't want to stop riding. It feels too good. So I kept on riding and I kept on pushing it, and I was too kind of in the moment, and I was talking a lot of shit, and I didn't see the pothole. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of doing that right now. I'm catching myself too busy talking to no one, because I'm not actually talking to anyone. I'm just talking to myself. But because I'm too busy focused on talking, I'm not really looking at what I'm supposed to be looking at. Like, there's a pothole right here. Well, that's a manhole cover, actually. But, you know, I gotta be careful. And I just gotta be careful, that's all. I gotta remember when I do start doing these long rides to not talk as much. I don't need to talk as much, because let's be honest. If you're watching this video, you probably don't give a flying fuck about what I have to say. You kind of want to see the perspective of the bike, which honestly I don't know how that looks because I didn't adjust the camera the right way. So you might just be staring at the speedometer this whole time, or you might be looking at the sky. I don't know. I passed my turn again. But, you know, if you're probably just watching this just to see the ride, just to see the scenery. So I don't really need to talk that much. And yet, I know I'm still fucking talking. But I promise, longer rides, I'm just gonna turn on the camera and just forget that I'm actually recording and just ride. And just, maybe if I see something that I feel is really important or just really cool to talk about, then I'll talk and then I'll kind of go away. I think I got into this habit when I started making videos like this, into believing that I needed to talk in order for YouTube to consider it like a legitimate video that deserves, you know, to be watched and, you know, potentially make some income from. But I learned later that that's not how, that was a wide turn. That was a bad turn. I learned that that's not how YouTube works. They don't really give a flying fuck, again, what's in the video. As long as it doesn't violate their terms, they don't care. They really don't care. Now, if I continue to think that, yes, talking makes it more legitimate and more people will watch, then I would do that. I would continue to talk. But again, I'm not that kind of, I don't have that kind of personality. I have no personality whatsoever. I don't have, what's the word, charisma. I cannot hold someone's attention because I'm boring. I don't have the, you just I don't have it. I don't have the energy either. And I have to learn to accept that and just, you know, let what I'm doing be the video and just shut the fuck up. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm heading home, and if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. Let me know how the audio was. I mean, I'm gonna see it when I do the edit, but sometimes I think it's really bad, and some people think it's not. So give me some feedback if you can. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna shut up now, and video's gonna end probably in another 2 minutes. So just enjoy the silence. Well, enjoy the sound of just the engine. So yeah, take care and have a good day, I guess.